Welcome to Merschman Seeds Cup of Joe. On this episode, Area Sales Manager Aaron Harpole updates us on his sales territory in the Kentucky area. Hear from Aaron about herbicide and fungicide application, diseases, managing wheat, and our Merschman soybean varieties that grow well in his territory. Hear what we have to say about the newly released information on the dicamba label.
Hi, this is Joe Merschman. Welcome to Merschman Seeds Cup of Joe. Today we have our regulars. We have Ben and Lynn and Turk, but a special guest. We have Aaron Harpole from Fancy Farm, Kentucky, and he is our area sales manager down there. And as we had alluded to last week, we're going to start bringing in our area sales managers to kind of give a local view of what's going on all over our territories. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ben, and he's going to lead the discussion with Aaron.
Yeah. So Aaron, why don't you give us a little bit of background about yourself and your territory that you cover before we talk about what's hot right now in your area?
Okay. Yeah, I say I cover very southern Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, and on down as far south as you can go. I grew up here in Western Kentucky, grew up in Clinton, Kentucky. I went to Murray State University in Murray, Kentucky, went there for 4 years for an ag business degree. Graduated there and went to work for another seed company for a couple of years, and then joined Merschman three years ago.
Perfect. So let's talk a little bit about some of the successes and the wins and the challenges from last year, and then we'll kind of lean into what are on the top of guys' minds right now.
Last year, we were dry, super dry. But crops at the end of the day were a lot better than anticipated for a lot of people. So that was a big win for most growers in my area.
So what's on the top of farmers' mind right now?
Right now we're extremely wet. Right now they're trying to get in, spray herbicides, spread nitrogen on their wheat. And like I said earlier, we were in mid-70s earlier this week. So they really got the guys' blood flowing, ready to get out in the field, start planting, doing field work, getting things ready.
Yeah, I saw an article from Snodgrass this morning, Friday morning, basically talking about how you guys are 20 days ahead of schedule for green up compared to what average is, and what does that mean for getting things ready in your moisture situation? Are guys able to get their nitrogen on? Has any nitrogen got on? Because you guys are probably 3 weeks ahead of us when it comes to a green up standpoint.
Yeah. Last week we had about a day or two that it was dry enough to get out and apply nitrogen to their wheat. We've been wet since. Yesterday we got almost 3 inches, depending on where you're at. So it's going to put some guys back. But as soon as it dry up, they're full speed ahead to field. And as I said, we're a little early than normal, but that's a good thing.
What were wheat sales like last year? Is there a lot more wheat in the area because of where the prices are at, or what's the rotation look like down there?
It's about normal for what it was. I wouldn't say it went up from the previous year, but prices were still good. So a good amount of acres were put out, and expect a good crop. So,
Aaron, what are the primary crops that are grown in your territory?
In Illinois and Kentucky, you've got wheat, corn, and beans. When you move down to Arkansas, parts of Tennessee, places like that, you've got cotton, wheat, corn, and beans, and rice in Arkansas and Missouri.
So what are growers thinking about? Is there anything new that they're thinking about for their wheat applications? Is there anything that they're trying that's different? What did they learn last year from their wheat? Because we had some really, really high yielding wheat coming out of your territory last year, stuff in the 90s, 100s, 110s on field averages. So what does it take to get that in your growing region, and what are guys tweaking and potentially doing different moving forward?
Higher maintenance, instead of just planting it and keeping it clean and not really pushing it. Guys have really started fungicide and making sure everything's fungicided, because last couple of years, diseases have been there and they're going to be there. So, but higher prices help with that. So just more nitrogen and making sure fungicide sprayed and sprayed on time, and sometimes multiple applications, and really pushing that crop to get those higher yields.
Aaron, you talked about keeping it clean. Now, us Northerners, or Yankees up here, we typically don't have to spray our wheat to keep it clean. Explain what that means.
We've got bluegrass, ryegrass, things like that coming through. So just making sure, obviously you want to start clean with a good pre. Anthem Flex has been a good option for us. And right now here in even Southern Illinois and parts of West Tennessee and Kentucky, we're having some bluegrass issues. So making sure you're coming in on time with a post application to keep those at bay.
What kind of products are they using to kill grasses and grasses? Sometimes that can be a challenge because you don't have a lot of options.
For the bluegrass issue right now, we're using Actual Bold. Osprey is a good option. Powerflex. Those are probably your three most popular. And that's what most guys are running.
Are you spraying that right now? I mean, is it something that's got to be controlled right now to keep it from hurting the wheat yield?
Guys would be spraying it right now if we were dry. But then you've also got to watch out. Some of those, I believe, is like a 7-day before you put nitrogen in there to burn your wheat. So there's been some decisions being made, and I'd say as soon as we dry up, it's going to be full speed ahead with those applications.
So getting beyond wheat, Aaron, what are some popular soybeans that are planted in your area? What's the maturity range that you're looking at? Are guys going to be trying anything different on their soybean crops that they have down there this year? Because again, like what you had talked about in the past, you had some extremely dry conditions where the beans were unbelievably out yielding the corn, because you'd have some 70, 80, 90 bushel corn, and holy cow, there's that in the beans as well.
Yep. Going back to the maturity, most of our guys are from a 3.6 Kennedy to a 4.8, so they're your Dallas. And then some parts of Southern Illinois, you'll have some early 3s, late 2s on some small acres. What really helped us, and what helped and hurt some guys, is last year, we were dry. So a lot of fungicide applications weren't made on some acres because it thought too dry. But once the combines ran through, the tell was that even the fungicide, even on a dry application, when it was super dry, paid. So guys are going to be, more and more guys are going to be running fungicide on their beans on every acre. And I'm a big advocate of that. Whether if it's dry, it seems like it's going to pay. The corn's a different story, but on the beans, it's going to pay.
Anything to do to keep that plant healthy and a little bit less stress to help that soybean plant finish the season out seems to be a very popular thing to increase yield for sure. Mm-hmm.
So your area is one of the larger areas for us in both size and in sales. So is there any particular variety that or varieties in your area that seem to be leading the charge that guys seem to be most happy with?
Obviously the Kennedys. It's a number one seller for a reason past couple of years. Austins have been very stout as well. Truman's, that's going to be a hot one this year. Guys are super excited to go full with that one. As you get later, your Memphis 4.6 and your Dallas 4.8 have been phenomenal.
Aaron, what diseases and nematodes, and just describe some of the problems that you fight that might be different than some of the other areas that we sell seed into?
Frog eye's a big one on beans. That's pretty much my whole area has got an issue with that, and you're going to have it. So a fungicide will take care of that. Plus, a variety with a higher frog eye score is always a plus. Cyst nematodes are a big thing, and that's getting more and more traction. That they're prevalent in about every field here around here. So it's something guys are really starting to pay attention to, with soil samples and stuff like that maybe they hadn't paid as much into in the past.
You are you starting to see more use of Starting Line Plus with the addition of Trunemco for the nematodes and of course the Saltro for sudden death? And are you seeing a little bit more of a trend in your territory because we've introduced that down there for this year?
Yeah, for sure. And it seems like it's really, really working. So Yeah, like I said, their guys have really started paying attention to that, so they're willing to spend that to reap the benefits for controlling those and getting them higher yield.
Yeah, so in that same conversation we had just a little bit ago, with the momentum that you've got, particularly in the southern part of Tennessee, what have guys told you that has brought them to the Merschman system? What has been either a contributing factor or factors that they've come on board? Because where you're at is a pretty tough area for bean sales. It's a very, very competitive market.
It's performance, quality, and the Enlist system. I mean, they've been coming from the dicamba system, just the ease and the control that we're having with the Enlist system on that side. And then for the bean side, just like I said, performance and quality. Guys saying there's absolutely zero complaints about everything we push them and tell them to plant performs. So they're very happy. So that's really helped build up traction on existing customers and new customers.
Aaron, you forgot the most important part. They got a heck of a rep down there in Kentucky.
That's right. That's right.
And that's a big part of any seed purchases, service after the sale, and making those recommendations. And Aaron's a veteran in our organization to be able to do that in that area.
So what do you do for when you're not working for Merschman Seeds for your spare time? What do you do?
During the winter, I duck hunt and goose hunt. Big waterfowl hunter. In the spring, I'll turkey hunt, and on weekends during the summer, spring, I'll play golf. Enjoy myself.
Okay.
And you have a little bit of responsibility at home too. You got a youngster, right?
Yep. Yeah. I got a year and a half old. He keeps me on my toes for sure.
So Aaron, there's a lot of issues with dicamba that goes on in your area, and I would say it's probably one of the bigger areas that we have issues with that. The other day we received the EPA put out a memo or a letter that the folks at BASF voluntarily changed their label or restricted use. Do you see that as a benefit for you down in those parts? And then we'll have Ben kind of describe what the changes are as well.
Yeah, I mean, with the cutoff date in certain areas, it's going to help on some double crop acres. Just ease and not being able to spray. They're going to need to have something over post to control weeds. So I think, yeah, it will.
Yeah, so basically what happened is I think it's BASF and Monsanto both in the EPA released letter, because it said the registrants of the two different dicamba products offered the states what their proposed label should be, and they offered Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, and South Dakota a June 12th cutoff date, and South Dakota opted out and did a June 20th cutoff date. But essentially what they did is the registrants went to the states, said, this is what I propose. There are other states that don't look like they adapted that. There was an article a week and a half ago, came out of DTN Progressive Farmer, that said, I believe it was Arkansas Plant Board said, nah, we're not going to go along with that. But for the I states, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, and South Dakota, there is a different cutoff date. That was adopted here Thursday morning, the 16th. So I think that'll be interesting. I think it will get us into a place where the temperatures are lower. I think Illinois also has a 85 degree. You can't spray into 85 degree temperatures, so there's an additional limitation there. But what it's going to do is it's going to put us into a position, as long as the Junes aren't like our June last year, where the temperatures are lower. A lot of these post applications are going to be on soybeans that are in the V1, V2, V3 stage, and they're going to have the opportunity to lay some dicamba down, lay some residual herbicides down with that product, and get them to closer to canopy.
Correct me if I'm wrong, was it also nothing after V4?
I think there's a V4 or June 12th, whichever one comes first.
Yep.
So check your label. It's changed from, again, I mean, it seems like that's the nature of that beast is that trying to fine tune it and trying to get it under control. If you're planting early, you're fine, but if you're planting in June, it doesn't give you much time to spray dicamba, does it?
Nope. So I think that leads us into a courting joke.
Well, what I wanted to talk about, the big news here at West Point, Aaron, was that we saw our first dead skunk in the middle of the road. And we actually saw two. We saw one west of town and we saw one east of town. So we call that a double rep, so it's got to be true. So how the story goes, if those of you that haven't heard us talk about this in the past, the old timers around here always said when you see your first dead skunk in the middle of the road, you'll be planting corn within 6 to 7 weeks. And the reason why is it's a gestation period or breeding period right now for skunks. So the males are moving around looking for the females, and unfortunately they don't look both ways when they cross that road, and a few of them get ran down. So we've seen 2 of them this past week, and some of them you didn't have to see, you could smell them. We're expecting an early spring, so we'll see how that turns out. So because of that, I decided that I would do skunk jokes today, okay, to celebrate seeing our first dead skunk, okay? So Aaron, I'm going to ask you this one here, see if you can come up with it. What college do skunks attend? Any idea? PU. How much money did the skunk have? 1 cent. 1 cent, okay? Why are skunks so intelligent? They have lots of sense.
Lots of sense.
Okay. Where did the skunk sit in church? In a pew, okay? I can go on for all day. This is the last one. Now this one here is, you got to think about it. What goes black, white, green, white, black, white, green? 2 skunks fighting over a zucchini. You knew that. Anyhow, enough of that. Anyhow, Aaron, we thank you for giving us an update for your territory in the southern part of our region.
And in fact, I think if anybody would like to get a hold of Aaron, any of the listeners that would potentially be in his area and ask for his expertise, his contact information is on the website. When you click on any of the dealers that are in his area, his contact information is the stuff that's up there. So,
good point. Well, thanks for watching and listening this week. We'll see you next week. Hope you and your family are safe and healthy. Take care.